Welcome back to another episode of NYCFC Views. I'm Glenn Crooks. I'll be joined by Roberto Abramowitz in just a moment. New York City, by virtue of their loss to the New York Red Bulls in the Leagues Cup, they don't have another match until August the 20th when they play host to Minnesota United at Citi Field back in MLS play. We're going to talk about the new players who have transferred in, although a majority of them are not yet available for training. They're not in the country. We'll talk about Leagues Cup with another wonderful night by Lionel Messi. And in our Kicking It Around segment, the Women's World Cup or the World Cup and the U.S. Women's National Team no longer around. This is NYCFC Views.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy. Tiene el tiro y gol! Gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer.
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Glenn Crooks, Roberto Abramowitz. Abramowitz. Hey, Roberto.
It's hard. I get it. I get it. It's not like we don't know each other like for 8 years or anything like that.
Maybe I should just call you A-Rob. Was that your nickname? Because that's your email.
Never.
Why did you? Why is that your
Abrarob? It's Abrarob. Abrarob.
I always see it A-Rob. I don't know.
Not me. Somebody else.
At the top here, we should remind everyone that we would love for you to subscribe if you're watching this, but we also would like you to subscribe on Apple or Spotify or both as well. We're now available on those two podcast platforms. So you've got YouTube, you've got Apple, you've got Spotify. So you can't like subscribe to one and then it covers all three. You have to go on separately. So we hope you'll do that. And that will really help and also rate it. As Roberto has said in the past, make sure you subscribe and rate it and let us know what you think. Give us your feedback on what we're doing here on NYCFC Views. I got that right, Roberto?
You did. Commenting helps as well. And look, we'll take feedback. The good, the bad, the ugly. We'll take it all because we take it in. We take everybody's analysis seriously, you know. And I mean, if they ask, you know, Glenn, you know, color your hair, something like that. All right, that maybe we won't
we'll go for it,
too much or anything like that. But
man,
I can't grow anymore. It is what it is.
Why am I grayer than you? Do you color your hair, Roberto? I'm curious.
No, not at all. Not at all.
All right.
All this ugliness is all natural.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to hear that. Well, facelifts in order. Maybe that'll be our reward someday.
No, we're not doing that.
We'll get a little tuck, a little color.
Little Botox? No, I don't think so.
No. So we don't have a lot to talk about in terms of game reports. We did a post game from Red Bull Arena after the Red Bulls knocked off New York City 1-0 on the Omir Fernandez penalty. That was all New York City could muster. I wonder, Roberto, as you have had a little more time to think about that game, what you thought. I mean, I know we said it a little bit, but it was really chances on goal, you know, shots on goal. There were in the 1-0 loss in a regular year, it was just one shot on goal. And it was really the same issues again in this Leagues Cup match. What do you think?
You know, every single knockout game that they've had against the Red Bulls have all been in Red Bull Arena. They've lost them all, and by a combined score now of 9-0. You think you can study this team and you can figure out ways to be able to break them down and to be able to get scoring opportunities, but it's a lot harder to do, especially when you allow the first goal. I wonder if the game had gone on longer and then maybe Red Bull maybe has to, especially because they're at home, if they have to go up a little bit more, they have to, you know, and try to be a little bit more offensive, gamble a little bit more. It sort of reminds me of what wound up happening in the game that they played when New York City won 1-0 in the regular season last year. And that was Tati Castellanos' final goal. They beat them 1-0. And that was basically sort of what happened, is that the Red Bulls finally had to try to find a way to get a goal because it wasn't happening. New York City had defended so well in that game, and then that gave the opportunity for the break, and Tati's clinical, and he finished it off beautifully for the goal, and New York City got out of there with a 1-0 win. So you would hope that with Bakrar there, that you have basically now a complete team as far as that's concerned, and that maybe something like that could have developed. But again, the Red Bulls just know how to play New York City. As they say, styles make matchups, and the style that Red Bull is able to play, especially at home, really causes trouble for New York City.
That it does. And so the Red Bulls move on. We're recording this on Monday afternoon, Monday evening. This evening, they're going to go and play in Chester against the Philadelphia Union. And it's Querétaro against New England. That's at Gillette. And Charlotte meets Houston Dynamo. That's all tonight. And then tomorrow, Roberto, Club America, Nashville. That seems like a fun match. Toluca,
it is. Tomorrow's games are so much better than today's.
Yeah. Toluca,
really
Minnesota. Tigres, Monterrey. That's,
oh, yeah.
The all Mexican. And LAFC, Real Salt Lake, two teams that are in good form. So,
and Tigres it's a real good break for MLS teams that Tigres and Monterrey have to face off. And they're going to wind up selling out the stadium in Houston if they haven't already, because it's pretty close. It's a nice drive from Monterrey, nothing terrible. So, Clásico Regio is going to be in Houston, and it's going to be freaking wild. If the Houston Dynamo don't find ways to be able to merchandise themselves and market themselves at that game to fans that don't normally go to their games, I don't know what the hell they're doing. I hope that they do, and they do it really well. That place better be painted orange in many ways, so the Dynamo is able to promote themselves with all those fans that are there. A lot of them are going to be local that probably don't go to many Dynamo games. So maybe this will be something for them to find some incentive for them to go to those games. It's a really nice little stadium that they have there. I really like it. We were there this year.
Yeah, for a 1-0 loss to Houston. It's pretty interesting. There's back-to-back games. It's Shell Energy Stadium, it's called. So Charlotte, Houston tonight, and then tomorrow night, Tigres, Monterrey. Let's talk about the Tigres goalkeeper, can we? Because who in they advanced past the Vancouver Whitecaps in the round of 32. I think that was in a penalty shootout, and the goalkeeper Guzman, Nahuel. How do I pronounce his first name?
Nahuel
Guzman. It was a 1-1 draw. Tigres wins 5-3 in penalties, but he put on a show of. First of all, he pulled like a magic act. He pulled the string out of his mouth and then made the save. And then the other one, he did like a mime thing, but he didn't save on that kick. So one worked and one didn't, but they did win on penalties. So
the funny thing is that I don't know if Dibu Martinez started this, the goalie for Aston Villa, who plays for the Argentine national team. But do you remember in the World Cup? Everything that he did to try to distract kickers. And so, the players are finding new and different ways to try to intimidate kickers into distraction and to missing shots. So, he took it into, look, it's entertainment. I'm just have fun with it, mind you. So it was a lot of fun. That was a fun game, by the way. Vancouver, they fly so far under the radar because they're so far west and north. But they are a fun team to watch. They really, really are.
Well, they're coming east to play New York City. So
they are.
Yeah. So I forget what the date of that was, but it's coming up.
It is. But I love that stadium, by the way, and I hope that the Vancouver fans start coming back because they used to have 23,000 all the time. Then they basically went into the tank and had some terrible seasons. Things didn't go very well. And now they get games where they got like 14,000 people there, and it's just sort of hard to stomach in a way how they've, lost their fan base a little bit. But now, they really are a fun team to watch. And they give Tigres, who are the Mexican champions, mind you, they gave them everything. As far as, try to handle that game. They were ahead. And then a beautiful bicycle kick for the goal by Guignac. André-Pierre Guignac tied that game. And it went back and forth. It was like a hockey game in a way. It was like back and forth, a lot of chances, a lot of fun, and good for Vancouver. They played them dead even. It was good. It was good to watch.
Gignac, we saw him front and center when New York City played Tigres, and that was Luis Barraza. Remember, that was his first start. I think it was his very first start, and it was a 4-0 match, a rough opener for Luis, who's now who's the number one keeper. I mean, who do you had Matt Freese play the last two matches? He got a clean sheet.
There is none.
He got a clean sheet against Toronto. By the way, the clean sheet against Toronto. That is, I don't count that as a masterclass performance. I mean, come on. If Luis
but
I'm sorry, but Luis Barraza, Glenn Crooks, or Matt Freese, and at 5'4", even if I was in goal, I still would have gotten the clean sheet against Toronto. So I'd really like to be clear, because the one shot that Matt had to save, it was right at him. So I could have had that one. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you would have probably had to jump, but that's beside the point.
No, I would have been. But they
had one shot. But by the way, give them credit for being in the right place at the right time as well. That's part of good goalkeeping, right? Making things look easy.
I'm not discrediting it, other than to say Toronto was.
Well, you are discrediting it because you're saying that you could have been in goal.
Yeah, I could have.
And you are discrediting it. That is literally what you're doing, actually.
Okay,
literally what you're doing.
He got a shutout.
I mean, it turned out that is an important save, because at that point the game is 0-0. And he was wide open. Who was it? Petrasa? I forget his name. But he was wide open on the back post. Matt Freese was in the right place, right time, and it headed it right into his chest. So good for him. Makes the save, and then after that, New York City takes over and puts a flag spot on him.
Let's get to what you were intimating. You think Freese is the guy now? You're not even giving Barraza.
No, I mean, I think Freese is a guy until he probably makes a mistake or doesn't look really, really solid, and then Barraza gets back in. I mean, it's going to be like that. It's going to be that way the rest of the season, I think, because neither one of them has been able to establish that they're number one goalie. And here we go again. Now it's going to be Matt Freese's turn. I mean, as long as he plays well, he's going to be fine, and we'll see how much of a chain he has, basically, before he gets yanked, if he makes a mistake or not, which isn't good. Okay, that part I don't like, because the point of that is you're sort of afraid to make a mistake, because if you are, then you're like looking at the bench and seeing if that's going to be, now all of a sudden next game you're not going to be there. You got to be allowed to make a mistake here and there, right?
Yeah.
Although Barraza had made a few.
Barraza made mistakes before the game. Before he was being yanked, as you would say, which I wouldn't use that word. And you know what? If especially the position of goalkeeper, if you're not mentally stronger than that you're concerned about a mistake and you're looking over your shoulder, then that's not the position for you. You should be
I agree.
You should be at the forward line, where if you make 1 out of 5 shots, that's like a world-class percentage, where you could suffer a little bit up there with mistakes. So I don't know.
Baseball Mendoza line? Batting 200?
Yeah, the Mendoza line. Well, listen, slightly better than that. Look up the great goal scorers of all time. Their percentages, I
know it is. Absolutely. And look, I don't think that, Barraza and Freese both have been okay for most of this year. And in some points, both of them have been very good. So I think that there's great potential between both of them. And, none of them have really this is their first year really trying to start. So, you got to give them a chance. They're both, youngish for goalies, especially. You got to give them a chance to grow. They're going to make mistakes. This is part of it. And, we'll see where it goes. I think both of them are going to wind up getting better. They have, great coaches. Robert Tugin is, one of the top coaches in this league, without a doubt, as far as goalie coaches are concerned, aside from set piece coaches as well. I mean, he's been helping out with the U.S. men's national team as well, because he's good. And so they are going to develop. They are going to get better. And they're in really good hands.
I think you got to name one keeper the rest of the way. Here's the problem. If my broadcast partner was here, a former Central defender, I'm pretty sure he'd say the same thing. you don't want a different goalkeeper in there all the time. You need some consistency, because whoever's behind you, you've got one that's got, I think, very good feet, and then you've got one that has very average feet, which is one of the reasons I was a little, and I said this post game, but I was a little surprised that Freeze got the start because of how they wanted to build out against this chaotic at times pressure from the Red Bulls, when Luis Barraza, is better with his feet right now. I mean, he just is. He's got better distribution skills than Matt Freeze against a team that, might cause more issues. There weren't any disastrous moments, but there were giveaways. And, there were some massive struggles at times for Matt, who, he was uncomfortable at times. So it's hard, you never know. But I'm telling you right now, if there's 10 games left and Barraza gets 4 and Freeze gets 6, or vice versa, I'm not particularly comfortable with that as someone who's in front of them, as a Chanot, as a Martins in particular. So
let me ask you this, and this might be a tough question. I have my answer, but I'm curious about yours. Who do you really think is a better goalkeeper between okay, so we can change this around a little bit. We can say who's a better shot stopper and who's a better goalkeeper in general. Do you want to answer it that way?
Honestly, Roberto, I haven't seen enough of Matt Freeze, I think, to really give a fair evaluation. I think he's appeared 3 times for New York City. I think one of them was particularly shaky, and the other 2 were pretty good. Nothing disastrous. And so I think it's hard from that standpoint. Right now, based on what I've seen and what I know, I think Luis Barraza has to be your keeper the rest of the way. And barring something where, you just feel like it's just not tenable at that moment because he's just, mentally shot or something. Outside of that, I think you have to name one. And whoever Nick Cushing and Rob Vertughian choose, I think it needs to be said to them, starting with the Minnesota game, it's yours the rest of the way. I don't want you looking over your shoulder. I don't want you blah, blah, blah. So if it's Barraza, yeah. If it's Freeze, boom. But whoever it is, they should have that. They should have it the rest of the way.
Hey, I'm leaning with you. Yeah, I'm leaning with you because I think that he gives them a better shot to win every game. Although the mistakes that he's made and the shakiness that he's shown, which got him benched, basically, obviously don't help. But, I mean, we've seen him make, great saves as well. And there's a clear advantage of having him play the ball with his feet. He's very, very good at that. I mean, we were talking about during the game, right, in post-game, we were talking about the fact that there was one point when Thiago Martins had a free kick in his own box, and he's trying to play it to Matt Freeze, and Freeze is sort of like frozen on the line. Sorry for the pun.
Freeze is frozen? Come on.
Hey, it was unintended, but it just came out. And as I'm saying it, I'm going, oh, God, this is punny.
Brilliant.
So hence the apology. But and you could see him getting really, really agitated. And then you had to see Maxime Chanot come in and talk to Matt and say, hey, everything's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Get it out of your head. That was problematic. But and part of why with Barraza, I think that the defense may feel more comfortable, especially because he's superior with his feet. So, but I don't know how Nick is going on this. It's sort of hard to take a guy out who has allowed no goals from the run of play in 180 minutes. And the only goal he did allow was a penalty kick. So that in that sense, it's hard. But if if you take a step back and look at the overall situation, I think that you basically have to go back to Barraza.
Well, it'll be interesting to see who is chosen and whether that does happen, that they just get the last 10 games. 10 games left in the regular season. We've heard from some angles that 7 wins is necessary to come up with the amount of points that is generally the amount of points that you need in order to qualify for the playoffs. It's 9 that go.
Can we stop that for a second? Just win your next game. And then just win your next game. Stop about looking about, oh my God, 7 out of 10 and this out of that. Do the math if you won after every game. Just win your next game. Don't worry about it. If you just
all right,
do what you're supposed to do and win, just win. That's all. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about the math. Win.
All right. New players who Nick Cushing hopes will be integrated and help the team over this last little less than a third of the season. Julian Fernandez, the 19-year-old winger. Alonso Martinez, the Costa Rican winger. And Andres Pereira, the number 8, who's on loan from Philadelphia. And then also we'll bring up Burke Risa. So just as an update, neither Fernandez nor Martinez nor Risa, as of this recording, has landed in New York. So therefore, they are not training. Martinez was at the game, at the Red Bull game, but he came in as a visitor and then is back in Costa Rica trying to get his paperwork completed. So, you've got a couple of weeks until that next game against Minnesota, and you need preparation time as well. So that's where those players stand. Andres Pereira, he's been training with the team for 2 weeks. He would have played in Leagues Cup if he was permitted to, but he couldn't, Roberto, because he had played with Philadelphia in Leagues Cup. So before we comment on Pereira and the rest, I wanted to, this is before the Red Bull game, part of my pregame show with Nick Cushing, and he talked about Pereira, and this is our conversation. Be someone you think of highly. I would think, the way I understand it, it's just a loan till the end of the year. That's just 10 games because he's not eligible for the Leagues Cup since he's already participated with Philadelphia, and $400K GAM to Philadelphia. So tell us how you think he's going to fit in when he's eventually ready to go.
A guy that I really admired at Orlando, a guy that my goalkeeping coach, Rob Vartugian, has known previously through national teams and younger national team tournaments. He went to Philly this year and hasn't figured a lot. And, a guy that we have on the radar as a number 8 that will, challenge Keaton Parks and James Sands and Alfredo Morelos and Justin Hack to play in our midfield. Can play in a 4-2-3-1 with Santi as a 10, can also enable us to play 4-3-3 with a midfield of Sands, Pereira and Keaton Parks, which is a real, out-and-out midfield to allow Santi and Julian and, Mateus Pellegrini and Tales and these guys to be a little bit freer off the sides. It gives us, flexibility. I think the one thing Andres brings is he has a different profile of midfield player. Yeah, he has technique, but he also has real physicality and a real physical ability to get around and get the ball back and break play up.
So, I get the impression that Nick really likes him. At that point, he had seen him train with the team too, Roberto. So my expectation is we're going to see a little bit of Andres Pereira. Based on that.
I think so. I always liked Andres. I mean, he played really well. For me, he played really well for Orlando to the point of where he was actively recruited by U.S. national team. And then finally he played for the U.S. national team. I think he was in a qualifier in Guadalajara that the U.S. sadly wasn't successful in getting to the Olympics. That was the Jason Christ team. That was just so weird how that team was built out. But I thought he was one of the better players that showed for the national team in that camp or in that tournament. So I always like him. I'm sad that it's only like a loan towards the end of the season. For what I had read, there wasn't like an option to buy. Hopefully that's not accurate, and maybe they can figure out a way for him to stay here past the end of the season. And we'll see what happens. But he's a definite addition to midfield. Creates a lot more competition at midfield. And while I was watching that, it made me think of something. And I want your take on this. What happens to Richie Ledesma in all of this? Because it's almost like, does he push Richie or does he push Richie out?
No, when he talked about Santi playing the 10 in a 4-2-3-1, the absence of Richie Ledesma being mentioned there, I think, I don't know if it's significant. That's also sometimes off the cuff, and you want to mention a player and you don't. I don't want to hold that against Nick.
I agree with that.
Ledesma wasn't mentioned, but Santi was as the 10. And one thing I remember in my early talks with Nick about Ledesma, I mean, he really sees him more as a 10. You know, he feels that's his best. And Ledesma, he's desperate to build a relationship with Bakrar, you know, and he felt like that was coming along in the minutes that they shared together in a recent match. So one of the 3 matches that Monsef has played. So I agree with you. I'm not sure. And then, look, let's talk about these other guys when they get here. But when they do, Fernandez and Martinez in particular, you do have a lot of similar type players all competing for, well, similar minutes, I guess. So I think it's going to be a challenge. But as a coach, you love having those kind of options. So, you know, whoever starts scoring goals is not going to be taken out of the lineup. If Tyler Magno all of a sudden starts filling the back of the net, he will be in there the rest of the way. If Fernandez comes in and is assisting and scoring goals, you know, if he gets 2 goals and an assist in his debut, it won't be the last time we see him. But we just have to wait.
Which is it's the big problem the team has had. And it puts more pressure on the defense because now they need to be perfect, or if not, they're going to lose. So it helps. If you start scoring goals, then it just makes it easier for everybody. And that has been the big issue of this team. So forget about the game against Toronto.
Yeah. Let's wrap up Leagues Cup with Messi. You know, we can't left it unsaid, even though I think a lot has been said since last night's game. But another brace. He's got 7 goals in 4 matches and 3 assists. He's got 2 2 late free kicks, 1 to win a game, 1 to tie it, which is eventually won in penalties. And both free kicks were taken. One was, you know, over the wall to the right. One was over the wall to the left, and it was perfection. And I feel so bad for Marco Farfan this morning because,
oh God, but
I don't know. I think was there a moment where he thought he was attacking the goal? That was an attacking header. I
really would love to. I didn't see if he had anything to say after the game last night.
I don't think he did. I mean,
it is a horrific moment for him.
Own goal off of a Messi free kick.
Goal.
Yeah, if you have a off a Messi free kick, and it's one of the most incredible own goals you'll see. I mean, it really looks like.
I mean, I presume he's trying to put it up over the bar, but I mean, he just and defenders normally, I mean, but he's not very tall, mind you. But defenders normally head up and away, even when they're attacking the goal. Even when you're going offensive, you're always heading it up, and that's always the thing. You know, forwards head down. You know, defenders head up. Yeah. Boy, he nailed that one. It's horrific. I mean, I really feel for him. I really feel for him. You
said before we started recording, so now there, of course, there's this highlight package. I did not see the full match, I must admit. I share.
I did.
Keaton Parks and I share one, but Keaton Parks and I don't share the physique part. Obviously, he's 6'3" and I'm 5'4", but we do share the same birthday. So I kind of put my phone aside, and I did not do anything yesterday.
Happy birthday, Glenn!
Well, thank you very much.
How did I not know it was your birthday?
I don't know.
Have you caught up to me already?
You're actually, well, maybe that's the problem. You don't you don't want to acknowledge it because you want me to catch up. So I've only seen, I saw some of the match, watched it back and saw the highlights. But you said how many people had watched the highlight package?
The highlight package, which is like 8 minutes, is already seen by over 2.5 million people for a game that was played last night. Yeah, this Messi guy brings interest to MLS, no doubt. But here's the thing about the game, okay?
Can I just say one thing? I watched, somebody created a 2-minute and 57-second package of just Messi, and it really is incredible. I mean, he chipped a keeper at one point. Dallas had somebody stationed at the back line, but that was unbelievable too. I mean, yeah, but go ahead.
The creativity and the talent together is just ridiculous. I mean, it really is. I mean, but the thing is that now everybody say, oh, well, he's doing it because MLS defense are crap. Okay, we understand that MLS defenses are not at the level of the top 5 leagues in the world. this is a top 20 league in the world, and it's growing, and it's going to get better, and it's going to, be creeping up there, because that's what this league has always been doing since Beckham got here. All right. And so that will always increase, and it will get to be a top 15 league at some point, and hopefully, it will get better. All right. But he was doing this to top 5 defenses in the league. Okay. He was doing this to Real Madrid. He was doing this to Atletico de Madrid. He was doing this to everybody in Champions League. This isn't new. Okay. Of course, he's going to have more freedom to do it here, because defenses aren't as good as if they were that good. Players on defenses here, they'd be playing in the Premier League, and they'd be playing in the Spanish League, and they'd be playing in Bundesliga, right? But they don't, okay? There's just X amount of room for players in those leagues, especially in the top teams. But, what they don't tell you is that when they were playing the really bad teams in either whoever they got in Champions League, which sometimes happened when they got a team from, the one team that happened to qualify from Austria, or from, I don't want to demean Turkish soccer, mind you, but let's say, okay, or something like that, versus, playing, the Atletico Madrid every year. But, when they were playing, teams like Real Sociedad and Eibar and things like that, trust me, he had space in the box, okay? So stop the MLS bashing for all of the people there. Just enjoy what you're watching. Enjoy the fact that you've got one of the greatest players of all time, the greatest player right now in the moment, and enjoy him. This is just, it's been given to you. Just enjoy it and stop questioning everything.
We know Apple TV and MLS are enjoying it. That's
oh my God, they are. They are. But the goals have been fantastic. The movement off the ball has been fantastic. Yeah. Everything he's doing, the passes. Oh, it's like even in Kramaski's goal, the pass to Jordi Alba right at the end line, right into space, so that Alba knows where the ball is going, and it's going to have the right speed and the right spin, and it's going to have everything. And Alba reaches it right in time and puts it back, and Kramaski gets there and scores. I mean, that's a brilliant goal. But these are guys that know each other, and not only can think about the play, but can execute the play. And so, and they're going to execute it at a high level, at a much higher percentage than most players in not only MLS, but most players in the world. And that's the difference. It isn't that you can't make that play, but how often can you make that play? And with them, it's a hell of a lot more often than anybody else. And so that's what's going to make a huge difference. It was a fantastic event to watch last night. There were crazy goals. There were 2 own goals. There were great plays. There were bad plays. There were exciting plays. Jesus Ferreira, when he was on a roller coaster of a game, he made so many good plays, and then he had so many opportunities to score that he absolutely wasted. He had an open header that he put wide. He had a breakaway that he allowed himself to get caught from behind. There were those things. It was the up and down performance, but it made for a crazy, exciting, and unique event. And the great thing about this for MLS last night, and maybe it was done on purpose, it was a standalone game. It was the only game on MLS Season Pass last night. It's a shame that it wasn't on anything else, so more people could have viewed it. But I guess it's their way of saying, hey, you want to see the show? You want to come to the circus? Well, you got paid.
4-4 the final, and then it went right to PKs, and Messi converted his PK as well, just for the record. And in fact, Miami scored all their PKs. And FC Dallas supporters, that story is kind of interesting. We have our group text, and what showed up on the group text last night, I didn't see it till this morning, though, was this FC Dallas supporters protesting the increased ticket prices for the Messi match. I guess that's what the thrust of it was, right?
Well, but so it's part of it. So what wound up happening was that they have official supporters, and for people who buy season tickets and sit in the supporter section, they got a discount. Okay, but because FC Dallas doesn't sell out all of their games, sometimes it's a lot cheaper to buy tickets on the secondary market. And so a lot of the supporters, instead of buying season tickets, were just buying tickets per game, because at the end of the day, they probably wound up saving a little bit of money. So those people that did that wound up getting excluded, even though they're official supporters, but because they didn't have season tickets, they wound up getting excluded, therefore they had to buy tickets. Like, yeah, all right, well, you're buying them on StubHub or Ticketmaster or whatever. Well, now you got to go there, and tickets there were close to $400. So you gamble, you lose. I feel for them, and maybe they could have done something to say, hey, well, you know, we're going to include you, but Messi doesn't come in very often, so sorry to say, you know, it happened.
September the 30th, still looking forward to that. I'm wishing Messi and Busquets and Alba good health. That's when New York City will play at Inter Miami. Tati Castellanos scores a goal in a friendly for Lazio against Girona. Girona wins the match 2-1. Girona, his former team. Neymar announces today that we're seeing all the reports. He hasn't made an official announcement that he has told PSG he's not coming back. And so now I saw your tweet, Roberto, and about, you know, MLS. Are you you know, are you awake to this? And we have seen things Neymar to New York City, you know, somewhere in the past. Whatever, Twitter can throw up there whatever they like, and some are reliable and some are not. So
let's talk about that for a little bit.
Well, he's not going to go. He's not going to Miami, probably because they can't find any more room.
I mean,
plus Messi,
the amount of
Messi's
unfair play there would be ridiculous. Okay, plus there's no benefit to the league.
Even if they had the money, Messi doesn't want him. But go ahead.
Oh, I'm not too sure about that. I think that they're friends. I think that he would want him. I disagree there. But here's the thing, is that there's no more juice to squeeze out of that orange, if you don't mind that pun being from the Orange State, mind you. It doesn't make any sense for him to go to Miami, because you can't fit anybody else in there. It makes sense for the league to be able to have him someplace else. Is New York an ideal place? You bet your butt it is. And I know that in discussions that we've had, this doesn't fit the profile of player that New York City looks for. But they have to look at it. Glenn, they've got to look at it. They can definitely afford it. They can see what's happening in Miami, okay? The level of interest that has increased because of this, okay? And not only in the league, obviously in the team. People are now lifelong fans for the last 3 weeks of Inter Miami. Just think of it that way. And so Neymar, aside from Cristiano Ronaldo and maybe Mbappe, okay, are the last names out there that can have this sort of impact, okay? And if you can bring Neymar to New York City, okay, it's going to be wild. It's going to be almost as wild as what you're seeing in Miami, because he, like Messi, it's not just about attracting Argentinian fans. Messi attracts fans from everywhere. And Neymar is the same way. It's not about, oh, well, let's see what the Brazilian demographics are in the New York City area and see if that makes any sense. It doesn't matter, because if you're a soccer fan that grew up anywhere and you're from whatever country, the opportunity to see Neymar on a weekly basis in your city, or bi-weekly, okay, is absolutely enticing. And by the way, New York City can fit a lot of people into Citi Field. They can fit a lot of people into Yankee Stadium, and they can fit a lot of people into the air of one remaining game at Red Bull Arena, although it says for now there are two, but it's going to wind up being one, because both the Yankees and the Mets right now are in big trouble, especially the Mets. So that's good news for New York City. But it also means that he's 30 years old, okay? Think of this. He's 30 years old. You can squeeze 4 or 5 years out of him, if not maybe even more, all right, which now puts you into a timeline for the building of the new stadium. 25,000 seems really small. I've always thought 25,000 was small for this stadium. I always said 32, because I think that they can fill 32 if they market properly. By the way, if Neymar comes here, I bet you 32 is going to be at least the minimum. It has to be.
Your broadcast partner, Ariel Hudas, doesn't agree with you regarding he's part of our text thread. I don't.
Yeah, I know.
He doesn't. He wouldn't mind me sharing the fact that he thinks Messi's a disaster in the locker room, which, that's a tough way to start. I think everything you said is understood from a business standpoint, but from a pure sporting team standpoint, it's difficult. I'm not saying he wouldn't, help push a few more goals across the line. Of course he would. I mean, you got that kind of talent, but is it worth it? And for David Lee, the sporting director, unless he's changed his tune, and unless City Football Group has changed their tune in regard to New York City FC, because we've heard Farron Soriano also say the same thing within the last year on a webinar that he and David were on with Taylor Twellman. And it looks like we're going to have a chance to speak to David Lee this week also. And this will be a question certainly to be asked. Unless he's changed his tune, they're not going after Neymar, because that's not the philosophy any longer.
But remember that there was a caveat in all of that? Do you remember that there was a caveat?
No, what caveat?
Which was well, there are two players that might make us change our mind.
Well, what was
and it was Messi and Ronaldo. Well, why wouldn't there be three?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't there be three?
Because
the asterisk can get a little bit bigger.
Maybe there's a little bit more of an honest effort with those two versus the other guy. But
also the thing is, Glenn,
I guess Magda would be happy.
The impact. Oh yes,
huh?
Well,
yeah.
But I mean, once you see the impact that Messi has had in the league, okay, what he's not only done for Inter Miami, but he's done for the rest of MLS. Once you see that impact, it has to start changing things. You can't just stay with the way you thought after viewing that and viewing how this has now become an absolute phenomenon. And then all of a sudden an opportunity comes out there and you have a player of almost the same magnitude. It's not the same magnitude, but it's almost the same magnitude. And you actually have a chance. Now, the bigger problem, right, is that Messi came on a free. And Neymar has a contract to 2025. So that means somebody's got to buy him, all right? Unless Neymar wants to buy himself out, that's a different story. But I don't know if that is actually something that can happen. But somebody's going to have to pay PSG, which makes it all of this a little bit more pie in the sky. But you've got Apple that for anything that we would know would absolutely be interested. You have MLS, which absolutely would be interested. And you have a team in New York City, and I come back to this, the #1 market in America, which probably makes it the #1 market in the world, okay, where the team has room for growth as far as relevancy is concerned. And it's got a ton of room for growth. And you have a community, not only of Americans, but an immigrant community that immediately, all of a sudden, would be focused on this team, because you cannot have somebody like Neymar and not pay attention and not want to know everything that is going on. And it forces every newspaper, including the Spanish one, El Diario freaking doesn't cover NYCFC, which is nuts, okay? And the Post and the News and even the, world famous New York Times that, doesn't really cover anything local anymore, but everything is a worldwide view. Even they have to come in now because Neymar does that to you. So
at least the first
get him a place in the Hamptons, get him a helicopter, let him go and, and after practice, go out there, whatever you want to do. But, from a marketing standpoint, it is the easiest, quickest path to market this team. Okay. It's a huge investment, but if the league helped Inter Miami, Apple helped Inter Miami, then you've got to see what kind of help you can get to get somebody like him here. To me, I understand the locker room issues, and it's a big deal, mind you. It really is. But I like the idea.
All right. That's obvious, and I think the points are well taken. I still don't think it's going to happen. But maybe somebody should put a a trail on Don Garber, see if he's going to the airport with a Paris ticket to meet with Neymar and get him over here for someone. Galaxy, maybe, you know. But if he likes to beat Ariel, he wants to beat
him here. He's here.
All right. Well, hey, he could also live at the Jersey Shore. It's a beautiful spot. It doesn't have to.
And I know that you've got. I know that you've got a little guest house over there, and you know, while he settles, he can be your guest.
He's always got a place to stay. Let's before we close this out, we've got this feature. Roberto, let's kick it around. Let's kick it around. So
the investment in this show, Glenn, the investment in production in this show is just going through the roof. It's just based on all the, subscribers we've gotten now. And now we've got, a little bit more that we can throw into the production of the show. It's pretty amazing to see the growth.
It is based on subscriptions, and the subscriptions are free, unlike the Apple TV or or Paramount Plus or NBC or whatever else.
Peacock. It's called Peacock, Glenn.
Peacock. I have Peacock. I have all of them. Believe me, I see the bill every month. I have all of them, including the music ones, and oh my goodness! But
I have them all.
It's the world we live in. I guess I'm glad I have them. But and on that Peacock app have been a lot of the World Cup matches from Australia and New Zealand. And the sad news for the U.S. women's national team eliminated by Sweden in penalties after really playing their best match of the tournament. They really turned it around. But you mentioned earlier, we were talking about keepers and the tactics they use in the penalties, to try to distract the shooter. Well, the Swedish keeper did the same thing to Kelly O'Hara, and O'Hara hit the right post outside of the right post. It was really a poor penalty. She didn't really come close. And the keeper delayed, then came back and then went back for some water, and she had to reset the ball a couple of times. And I guess you do whatever you like with it. But what was really interesting, I've mentioned this guy before. His name's Gair Jorday. He's a researcher, but he's a soccer guy, and he does research on penalty kick shootouts. And I know I've mentioned this to you before, Roberto, because he worked with Ronnie Deila. They're both Norwegian. So when Ronnie was at Vålerenga or Strømsgodset, at one or the other, this guy met with the team and met with Ronnie, and they were talking about penalties, and also he does stuff with vision. So Ronnie used some of his tactics to beat Portland in the penalties in 2021. But one of the individual things, and if you look back, and I did this, I went back and looked at the penalties, the players that put the ball down, took a deep breath, and then exhaled, stepped back, and took the kick, all made theirs for the U.S. The ones, Rapinoe, Kelly O'Hara, Sophia Smith, that all missed, they put the ball down, they took the deep breath, and then they waited longer than they normally do. And what Gair did on Twitter as well is he did facial things, and he said the tension in their face. So he's a guy that really studies every aspect of penalties. But those three did different things than the other three, and he felt that it contributed to their misses because they were misses. The keeper didn't make one save.
Didn't make one save. I mean, the keeper was fantastic during the game because she saved their hide. I mean, poor Horan. I mean, she's got to be, feeling awful about, the saves that she made on her, because I thought she played really well. To me, she was, the best player for the U.S. During the game, except for maybe Trinity Rodman, who played, 60 minutes, and she wasn't healthy. She was sick, and so they had to take her. But they got a really good 60 minutes out of Trinity Rodman in that game. Yeah, it's really a shame she didn't have to make any saves whatsoever because it was either two balls that went into the sky and another one that hit the post, and it was after the U.S. goalie was made two great saves too.
Yeah, listen there. Really, she had a fantastic game. She didn't have to come up with the spectacular saves, but it's how you control your area sometimes that you want to evaluate a goalkeeper at the end of the day.
By the way, one of the things that became very interesting to me was that the U.S. during the entire 4-game tournament for them, they allowed, what was it, 1 goal and only 2 shots on goal during the entire tournament. And everybody thought that defense was going to be, you know, maybe the weakest point. I mean, I was always afraid of the offense. I thought that the offense had the most talent, but they didn't know how to put it together. For some reason, they just weren't coordinated enough. And you as a coach, you can wax poetic on all of this. But to me, that was a bigger issue. And I knew coming in, it was a bigger issue because we've seen this now for a while. We saw it during the Olympics. We've seen it throughout that for some reason, the coordination in attack and the tactics during attack, none of it seemed to work, although you had an incredible wealth of talent. I mean, Sophia Smith is burning up NWSL. Lindsay Horan is absolutely fantastic. Alex Morgan can basically score from anywhere. And then you have Trinity Rodman. You've got so much attacking talent on this team. I mean, it's a plethora. I don't think there's any team in the world that has as many attacking options, and yet they couldn't get it together. And even with the attacking options off the bench, which didn't matter because he doesn't make lineup changes, which is absolutely nuts when you've got 5. So defense was supposedly the concern. They allowed 2 shots on goal. The fact that the U.S. is eliminated is ridiculous.
Yeah, I would say I would agree with that. And the defending, that's why Julie Ertz went to the back line, so that back 5, the keeper and the 4 in front of her, there was a lot of cry to put Ertz in the midfield and then insert probably Alana Cook at the back. But now you're not as solid at the back. So it was the biggest tactical change. He went to, and this is, we've seen New York City and other teams in MLS, as we've observed over the years, go from sometimes a single number 6 to twin 6s, like a double pivot. And that was the key. And that tactical change probably should have been made earlier. But what happens is Rose Lavelle is out suspended, yellow card suspension. So now you don't have Lavelle in the midfield along with Horan and then who else? So there's no double pivot there if you're using that personnel. So it was almost in a way by accident that it occurred. It was almost, the hand was forced. But sometimes your team is structured that, you're giving up too much in front of the back 4. And you have to have, like we talk about James Sands, can he patrol the 6 on his own across a 75-yard field? And he probably can. And we saw how he did it with the U.S. men's national team against, somewhat weak opposition when he had that opportunity to do it. And I think, that's what you have to decide. Do you go with one? Are you
suggesting a 4-1-4-1?
I'm suggesting a 4-3-3 and let Sands sit there in front of the back 4, which I thought we would see by now. I think Yankee Stadium City Field, we might see that before the end of the year because it's a bit of a smaller pitch and a little less room to cover for Sands. But no, I'm talking 4-3-3, where now you've got, is it Ledesma and Santi or whoever you want up there? You're essentially playing with 2 10s or 2 8s, whatever you want to call them, and then Santi sitting in and spraying the ball around.
So it's really 4-1-2-3.
Yeah, I would,
because you're doing an inverted triangle as your midfield.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty.
And then
much.
you have you got your width between your forwards and also your backs.
I would like to see the wingers at New York City FC be wingers because they have take-on players. Pereira. I mean, Pereira gone now, but when he got isolated. But same with Magno, if you can get him isolated.
Absolutely,
and,
he takes on players all the time. Normally surrounded, so he has to.
And then these wingers coming in, that's part of their profile. Fernandez is a take-on player, 1v1. So it gives that possibility. And if they are inverted, there's mobility that goes on in there. So I think that was for the U.S. women. That tactical change maybe came a little late because you can look back at the group stage and say, well, if you did better in the group stage, you don't have to play Sweden in the round of 16. You're playing South Africa, and I'm no disrespect to them, but that's a game that is going to be probably easier to win than against Sweden, But
and the path too, because now, I mean, it would have been Sweden, and then all of a sudden you're facing Japan.
Yeah, no, the path
that wasn't going to be easy either, because Japan so far seems to be the best team in the World Cup. England is imploding after they advanced in penalties today, beating Nigeria, and they lost their best player. So for stomping an opponent.
Yeah, that was not good. That was an immature 21-year-old move for somebody whose brother's quite famous as well.
Reece James.
Yeah.
Yes, this is what, Lauren James?
Lauren James, yeah. Lauren James. So, all right, Roberto.
And she was fantastic in the previous game.
Yeah, she was. She was one of the most talked about players in the tournament after that last game. So, and Nigeria, just my final thought, Nigeria is coached by an American, Randy Waldrum, who's at the University of Pittsburgh, but also Nigeria. So his college allowed him to do both because his son is the assistant, Ben Waldrum, and he's a strong coach. So he's taking over preseason while Randy had been with Nigeria, along with Lauren Gregg, who, she's someone I'm going to be talking to soon, on the air and kind of going through a lot of the different things. She was Anson Dorance's assistant in '91 when the women won the championship. She was Tony DeCicco's assistant in '99 when the women won one of their 4 World Cups. A really tremendous coach, great person, but she's a soccer brainiac, and she wasn't allowed to be sitting next to Randy because the Nigerian Federation said, no, you can't, because we need one of our own there, whatever that means. And Lauren Gregg was home in Virginia, doing all the scouting, all the match analysis, all the prep that she would normally have done there. And as of right now, she's not on salary. Just as an example of what is going on with the Nigerian Federation.
I know. It's absolutely crazy. Last question for you on this. Well, when does Vlatko fall on his sword? It took Bruce Arena 3 days after Quova.
Yeah, but what I gather from JT Batson, who is the CEO, and the president, Cindy Parlow Cohn, is they are more, as they did with Greg Berhalter there. And I know there was like this investigation with Berhalter as well, but there's an assessment, which I think is going to take longer than 3 days. I don't think they're going to just go boom, boom, you're gone. They're going to do this thorough assessment. There's a lot more to it now when they're evaluating their coaches. But the reason I brought up Randy and Lauren, that if they elect not to bring Vlatko back to guide the U.S. women, they should strongly consider Randy and Lauren. And I think in a way, because there's no way they're staying in Nigeria. That's my opinion. She hasn't told me that.
Not for free.
But I also think they're going to get fired. They're going to get fired. So this is.
I don't know. Well, I mean, Nigeria played great. They lost to what was supposed to be a superior British team, and they lost in penalty kicks. So, I mean, it's not like they had major issues or anything like that. Nigeria played a great game. They just, they hit the bar. They had a lot of chances. It wasn't like they got dominated or anything like that. But if they get fired, they get fired, or they want to leave, they want to leave. Look, the thing is that they get offered a contract to play, to coach the U.S. You got to jump on that if that happens.
But the U.S. better look at them. I would be, I know sometimes the U.S. soccer's, they're going to go out and hire Sportsology and, to do the big search. And it's right in front of you. They both have worked for the Federation before. They both worked together for the Federation with the youth national teams. And Randy wins wherever he goes. I coached against him. He's a difficult coach to prepare for. And he outcoached every team that they played, including Serena today, the Serena Vegman, who's one of the more highly regarded national team coaches in the world, and that includes Bev Priestman up at Canada, and those are just two that come off the top of my head of games where I watched, and he had the better of it in terms of the setup and the plan, and without any camps. I mean, that's what I mean. These guys.
Yeah, I know it's not.
I think so having everything at their disposal, I just think, and the two of them are a package deal. So that's the way it'll work. Good. So that's it for me. Anything else, Roberto, to close this out? We don't have a game to broadcast, so we'll come back on Thursday.
No, we don't. But I will say that we've got a lot of good Leagues Cup games tonight. Not so much, although I'm interested in Philadelphia Red Bull. It's not going to be like a crazy exciting game, but I think it's going to be a dramatic game. I think it's going to be fun. The only U.S.-Mexico game tonight is Querétaro against New England, so I'll have my eye on that one as well. Tomorrow's games are fun, though. So tomorrow's a good day to you know, give it some time, plan some stuff where you can get rid of things that you need to do and be ready to sit in front of your TV from about 7 to 11 or 12 at night or something like that.
All right. A
lot of good games. Some of them on free TV.
A lot of football in the Leagues Cup. While New York City's eliminated, but there are some things happening this week, including we'll have a conversation with David Lee. That's being scheduled for Tuesday. As long as that comes off, we will present that for you on our Thursday NYCFC Views. For Roberto Abramowitz, I'm Glenn Crooks. Have a great day, everybody.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.